Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. Today we are discussing a book called The Psychology of Money, which is written by Morgan Housel. It was published in 2020, but before we jump into the main topic of this video, let me ask you a question. How many of you have invested in stocks? Okay, so for those who have not invested in stocks, you're probably wondering, why would somebody write a book about the psychology of money? What does that even mean? Well, if you are one of those people, then this video is perfect for you. Because today, I will explain to you everything you need to know about the book, The Psychology of Money. Now, without any further delay, let us begin with the first lesson from the book, which is lesson No. 1. Do not confuse knowledge with wisdom. Most people assume that knowledge is power, but they don't realize that wisdom is actually what leads to wealth. Let me explain what I mean by this. You can read all the books in the world about the stock market, but it doesn't mean that you will become a millionaire overnight. Why is that? Because when it comes to making money, there are two things that matter most: how much money you make and how well you manage it. So while knowledge is important, it is your ability to apply that knowledge that really makes the difference. For example, if you understand the basics of investing, but you can't control your emotions, then you won't be able to make sound investment decisions. And that's where wisdom comes in. Wisdom is the ability to apply knowledge in a practical way. It is the ability to use what you know to make good decisions. In order to become wise investors, we need to develop our emotional intelligence. We need to learn how to control our emotions and how to use them to our advantage. This means that we need to be aware of our biases, and we need to learn how to overcome them. We also need to learn how to think rationally and how to make decisions based on logic rather than emotion. This is not easy, but it is possible with practice. By developing our emotional intelligence, we can become wiser investors, and we can increase our ability to make sound investment decisions. Lesson No. 2. People often overestimate what they know, but they always underestimate what they don't. I hope you guys remember the quote I often say, which is, the more you learn, the more you discover how little you actually know. That's exactly what I'm talking about here. We like to think that we are smart and capable, but we often make mistakes because we don't know what we don't know. We are overconfident in our abilities, but we should be more humble. We should recognize the limits of our knowledge and be open to learning new things. If we can do this, we will be better investors, and we will be more likely to make sound investment decisions. Lesson No. 3. Never mix up brains and experience. Brains refers to our mental capacity, our ability to learn and understand new concepts. Experience, on the other hand, refers to the knowledge and skills that we acquire through our experiences in life. While both brains and experience are important, they are not the same thing, and it is important not to mix them up. When it comes to investing, for example, you might think that someone with a lot of brains is necessarily a good investor, just because they have a degree in finance or something similar. However, this is not always the case. Investing is not just about being smart, it is also about having the right mindset and being able to control your emotions. Similarly, you might think that someone with a lot of experience is necessarily a good investor, just because they have been investing for a long time. But again, this is not always the case. Just because someone has been investing for a long time, does it mean that they are doing it successfully? In fact, there are many people who have lost a lot of money investing for a long time. So what is the solution? Well, the solution is to find a balance between brains and experience. Investing is a skill that can be learned. Anyone can become a good investor with the right mindset and by following a few simple rules. Lesson number 4. The best investment opportunities often come from unexpected sources. It might sound surprising, but some of the best investment opportunities come from unexpected places. Often when we think of investing, we think of traditional investments like stocks and bonds. But there are many other types of investments out there that can be just as profitable, if not more so. One example is real estate. Real estate can be a great investment for those who are willing to put in the work. There are many different ways to invest in real estate, such as buying rental properties or flipping houses. Another example is private equity. Private equity is an investment in privately held companies. This can be a great way to invest in businesses that are growing quickly and have a lot of potential. Of course, this type of investment is not without its risks, but that is true of all investments. The bottom line is that there are many different types of investments out there, and it is important to keep an open mind. Just because an investment is not what you are used to, does not mean that it is not a good opportunity. In fact, some of the best investment opportunities are the ones that come from unexpected sources. Lesson No. 5. Your ability to make money is more dependent on who you are than what you know. We like to think that our success in making money is determined by our knowledge and skills, but the truth is that it is also very dependent on who we are as individuals. Our personality, our mindset, and our habits all play a role in our ability to make money. For example, if you are someone who is easily stressed out, then a high-pressure job may not be the best choice for you. Even if you have the knowledge and skills to do well in that job, if you cannot handle the stress, then you will not be successful. Similarly, if you are someone who is easily distracted, then a job that requires a lot of focus may not be a good fit for you. Again, even if you have the knowledge and skills for the job, if you cannot focus, then you will not be successful. Therefore, it is important to be honest with ourselves about our limitations. We need to be realistic about what we can and cannot do. Only then can we find a career path that is a good fit for us. Lesson number 6. People with similar results will often have very different explanations for how they got there. This is a very important lesson that we need to learn, especially when it comes to investing. When we see someone who is successful in investing, we often assume that they must be smarter than us. We assume that they know something that we don't. But the truth is that there are often many different paths to the same destination. Two investors may have the same results, but they may have taken completely different routes to get there. One investor may have used technical analysis to make their decisions, while the other may have used fundamental analysis. One investor may have been very aggressive in their investing style, while the other was very conservative, and yet they both end up with the same results. So what does this tell us? It tells us that there is more than one way to skin a cat, so to speak. There's no one right way to invest. What works for one person may not work for another. We need to be open to different ways of doing things, and we should not be afraid to experiment. We should also be aware of our own biases, and we need to be careful not to let them cloud our judgment. Lesson number 7. To make big money, you need to take big risks. Now, I am not suggesting that you go out and start taking huge risks with your money. What I am saying is that if you want to make a lot of money, you need to be willing to take some risks. Now, I am not talking about the kind of risks that will probably end up losing you a lot of money. I'm talking about calculated risks, risks that you take after careful consideration and after weighing the pros and cons. Making money is never guaranteed, but if you want to increase your chances of success, you need to be willing to take some risks. Friends, these were the 7 lessons I wanted to discuss with you today. The lessons are not in any particular order, but I would love to hear from you which one was your favorite. Also, if you have read this book, then please share with us in the comments below what you liked and what you didn't. If you are interested in reading more about the lessons from this book, then click on the card on the screen now, and I will see you in the next one.